A grower we worked with wrote to us last year and he said, so far it's been the rainiest and most humid summer on record, so the disease isn't a big surprise. It was bacterial spot and it killed the end of his season. In a humid environment, bacterial spot needs only 2 hours of leaf wetness to infect plants. That's why we need to control water strictly in the greenhouse. Let's look at a few ways to help us navigate that.
Okay, first you don't want to wet those leaves. So that means no overhead irrigation. If you're using some in the greenhouse, just make sure it doesn't reach the tomatoes. Second, if you're using misters to control the temperature when it's too warm, make sure to only use them when it's warm and dry, because you need those leaves to dry as fast as possible. If you're spraying either for nutrients or diseases, do it on dry mornings so that the leaves have the time to dry again as fast as possible. And whatever you do, never go into nighttime with wet leaves, because that's when you're the most susceptible to develop diseases in the greenhouse. Second, you don't want to have condensation in the greenhouse. Let's talk about like condensation on the plastic of the greenhouse. We want to avoid that as much as possible, but no matter what we do, if it's cold outside, it's always going to condense on the plastic. One good side of this is that it's free dehumidification. All the humidity that condenses on the plastic is not in the air anymore, so it's better for the plants. But the problem is that condensation on the plastic, if it drips on the plant, then you have wet leaves again, and that's a problem. It's usually like cold water as well, which is even worse. That's why we use anti-condensation poly, and because it's also helping with light transmission, so better growth in the greenhouse. That anti-condensation treatment won't prevent condensation on the plastic, but what it does is that it makes the water run down the sides and it's going to drip there. Where you put your crops, just keep in mind that on the side, that's where it's going to drip the most. So if you cannot put your tomatoes there, that's better. And if you already have plastic on your greenhouse and you know that there's no anti-condensation treatment, there's a product you can find to just spray on the plastic, and it's going to have the same effect. Never tried it myself, but you can always ask your greenhouse supplier if you're interested. Third, condensation on the fruits. So in the morning, condensation tends to form on the fruit because the fruit has more water, it has more mass, so that makes it warm slower than the air. And when the air is warming too fast compared to the fruit, it absorbs more humidity that will condense when it hits the cold fruit. And that's bad because that water on the fruit invites botrytis and other disease, and that degrades the fruits. Even after you harvest it, it keeps degrading the shelf life. So you don't want that. And that seems complicated to avoid all that condensation on the fruits, but in fact, if you have the right tools, you don't even need to think about it, and it's taken care for you. So the way to do that is to do some ramp up of the temperature in the morning. So you don't want to start with cold temperature and then have the temperature spike when the sun comes out. You want to have like that slope that gradually increase the temperature. In big greenhouses, they say you don't want to go faster than 2 Fahrenheit per hour, but it's really hard to do. So it depends a lot on the temperature you have at night. But if you're not heating, it's going to be even harder for you. But still, there are a lot of climate control systems that will do that for you. It's not that complicated if you have the right tool. And there are side benefits to it as well. If you have that temperature ramp up, it helps the plant transpire earlier during the day, and that helps the calcium to reach the fruit. And that means you will struggle less with blossom and rot, and it also reduces the root pressure in the morning, so that's less splitting for you. At the end of the day, you also have more growth because the plant is ready earlier in the day to transform sunlight into growth. So you have that thicker stem that we want to have to keep our plant healthy. So all of that, you have that pretty much for free with a climate control system that will do the ramping for you.
We want to keep our plants dry. In this video, we saw how to avoid wetting the plant and how to keep condensation from doing so. In the next video, we'll see another way water opens the door to diseases and how to shut it.